actually, and rather annoyingly, for some reason the audio didn't record. So let's check. Yep, my audio is all going through fine. I did a test and everything, and the test was fine. And then I recorded it for an hour, and it was like I'm just sat there for an hour talking to myself. Great. Anyway, these things happen. If you make 1,800 videos for a YouTube channel, at some point something goes wrong, and I've been quite lucky, touch wood, that certain things have been fine. So, or the majority of the time, everything's fine, you know. So back to the football. As you can see, I did pretty darn well this week. 83 points. Average was 47. Highest was 138. All because of this boy over here, Eden Hazard, with his hat-trick. I captained him, double the points, 40, boom. Half my points come from one guy. Oh yes. So very, very happy with that. I mean, even if I didn't have him, I still would have been around the average, so, you know. But I did think coming into that game, I was like, he's playing Cardiff, he's on form, he's playing well. Absolutely, I'm going to captain Hazard, there was no doubt. The only question I was going to say to myself was, should I triple captain him? And I didn't. It would have given me my highest ever score if I had. The reason I didn't was because I was like, no, wait for those double weeks, you should triple captain then. I don't know if that would literally have been better. I mean, I could never. I imagined Hazard to do well. I didn't imagine a hat trick, to be fair. So, you know, hindsight's a wonderful thing, isn't it? But we had De Gea in goal, who got his usual 3 points. I mean, he's kind of he's averaged 14 points from 5 games, which is nearly 3 a game, which is decent. I don't know who the best goalkeeper is so far. Let's have a little look. Best goalkeeper is Etheridge, then Hennessy, funnily enough, then Hart, then Alisson, Edison. So actually De Gea's fairly far down. Maybe we should look at transferring him. I'll have a look at who Man United have got, because I feel like Man United are on a bit of a turn, but we'll see. Yeah, so De Gea in goal, picked up 3 points. Wan-Bissaka at right back, doing well. 9 points, got a clean sheet, and some 3 bonus points as well. Another good display from him. 90 points he's got in the 5 games. Admittedly, I only played him for these 2 games, I think. So, yeah. Trippier came in because I had Mendy there, but for reasons that Pep Guardiola knows, Mendy didn't play. I guess he was injured. Shame, because he's been getting really good results, and I think he would have done well against Fulham. Van Dijk as well. Alexander-Arnold was my second sub, so he didn't come on. He was substituted before Tottenham scored, which meant he got the clean sheet bonus. Van Dijk stayed on, and he didn't. I mean, I imagine Tottenham would score against Liverpool, but I'm not too disappointed with that. Obviously Hazard, as we said, I was disappointed in Pedro not getting any more points. I brought him in instead of Lucas Moura. I don't think Lucas Moura got that many points, to be fair, but still I would have expected more from Pedro in that game. I think he's had a good season so far. Yeah, he's done alright on points, so I might leave him in, but yeah, disappointed not to get more. Same with Mane as well. I'll talk about the Liverpool game in a minute, but he should really have got at least an assist or a goal in that game. Jorginho, I mean, I know with him, you know, he was a cheap midfielder who every now and then I think might get an assist or a clean sheet or something. So, you know, I've got him around. I put him in because I knew, well, I thought Chelsea were going to get a clean sheet. Didn't quite happen like that. But, yeah, that's the way it goes. And Maddison did well, got a penalty, scored it. Obviously, Leicester did pretty badly. Aguero got 2 assists. Yep, so he did well. And Danny Ings got a goal as well, despite being red. So I thought he wasn't going to play, which would have meant Alexander-Arnold went in. So I actually was a point better off, which worked out well. And then Zaha on the bench as well. I didn't think he was going to play. I thought he might still be injured, so I left him on the bench. Got 7 points, didn't he? That's the way it goes, though. You know, I'll probably have him in for next week. So yeah, overall 83 points. Delighted. I'm second now in both my leagues. If we go to the Plays Cup, we can see I had the highest individual score for the week. Vegard Thorvald Valderson, well done, you are top currently, but I am equal second with Juan Camilo Uribe, and then it's damn close, I think, between most people in here, so, well done to everybody there, basically. And for the Crystal Palace, I guess there's not that many Crystal Palace fans on, but I'm 2,758th, which is pretty cool. And England 182,000, and then overall 534,000. So actually really happy with that. I said last season my aim was to get into 500,000, and I just about managed it. I think if I can get into 400,000 this year and just make an improvement, I'll be pretty chuffed with that, but we'll see. So let's talk about the football matches, because that's why we're all here. The Saturday lunchtime kickoff, I managed to watch this game, and it was an entertaining game for sure. Liverpool beat Spurs 2-1 at Wembley. Spurs are going through somewhat of a rough patch right now. I guess the benefit of doing this video a bit late is that I know that they lost in Europe to Inter Milan as well, 2-1, 2 late goals. I wouldn't necessarily say they're playing badly. I think it's just things aren't quite clicking for them right now. If you think about it from a point of view of they have certain important cogs in their team, and within those cogs, Harry Kane, for example, he isn't turning properly. There's some grinding in those gears, and it's just putting them off a little bit. And there's a few others who aren't perhaps quite back to their best. Ali hasn't really been at his best for probably a year now, or his best that we've seen before. Eriksen, I think, still is very, very good. Son is just coming back from the Asia Games, so I don't think there's any reason whatsoever to panic for Spurs fans. I think this season was always going to be difficult with the new stadium coming, and then the delays in that, and the transfer market dealings or lack of. So I think they'll I still had this feeling they're going to get in the top 4, but I don't think they're going to be challenging for the title this season, you know what I mean? So, oh wow, I've just seen Cristiano Ronaldo has just sent off Cristiano Ronaldo for Juventus. Wow, that's shocking. I don't know how many times Ronaldo's been sent off, but yikes. Man City are losing at this time, 1-0 to Lyon, and Man United are winning 1-0 against Young Boys. Anyway, yeah, but I feel like, Lloris as well, he had the problems off the pitch with Lloris, and the drink driving. It hasn't been a good start for Spurs, has it? And I say it hasn't been a good start, but realistically, they're 6th, 3 wins, 2 losses. So it's just been in the last couple of games, last few weeks, I think that they're just running out of, I don't know, they just haven't really, things have just started to go wrong for them a little bit. I think the most worrying thing is kind of Harry Kane, because everybody knows Harry Kane is a fantastic striker, one of the best in the world. What is going on with him though? That's the question, isn't it? Is it just fatigue? Is it tiredness? Does he need a break? Can Spurs afford to give him a break? They don't really have anybody else for that position. Can they afford not to give him a break? It's a real tough one, isn't it? He keeps insisting he's not tired, he doesn't need it, it's just a rough patch or whatever, and kind of Pochettino saying the same thing, but how much longer is that gonna wash? I don't know. I don't feel like he's done terribly, because in other seasons Kane just hasn't scored in August, and he obviously did this year, so I don't feel like he's walking on the pitch like shocking. It's just there's something about his game that isn't quite knitting right, isn't quite working properly, and yeah, I feel like that's probably the biggest worry Spurs have. I guess everything else will sort itself out, like Son will get back in. I'm sure Ali will rediscover some form. The stadium will sort itself out. Lloris will come back, and things will sort themselves out. The thing for me is, what do you do with Kane? Do you rest him? who've Spurs got up the next few games? They've got Brighton away. They've got Huddersfield away. Cardiff at home. For me, West Ham. For me, you rest Kane. Like those games, if you can't win those games without Harry Kane, then you don't deserve to be in the top four. So for me, I would turn around and say, Harry, get on a plane, go somewhere sunny for a couple of weeks, and just relax. If that is the case, like only the Spurs team know, and only Harry Kane knows, and Pochettino knows whether that's the case. It could be completely wrong, and it could be fine, and it's just a bad run of form or whatever, or people making a mountain out of a molehill. I don't know. Anyway, on to Liverpool, I guess. The interesting thing about Liverpool is that they obviously went out at the beginning of the season and spent big money on players that they identified as needing in position. So Alisson being the main one. They spent a lot of money on him. They needed a goalkeeper. They got him. Naby Keita, I know they brought him like a year ago, but obviously he just arrived. He's getting it. Shaqiri providing backup for Salah and Mane and Firmino. They were the big names, but I think the two players who have been a revelation for them this season have been Wijnaldum and Milner. James Milner, we kind of knew before. He is just a absolutely rock solid player. Like, he's 32 years old, and I think he's still physically very fit. Like, he is constantly up and down that pitch, and he's combining that with the experience that he's got of playing years in the Premier League, and he is just putting in performances week in, week out. He's not a flashy player. He's not going to beat players. He's not going to dribble it past someone and rifle it in a corner. He's not going to fly up on a counter attack or do that kind of thing. But what he does is just so solid and so good that he is integral to that Liverpool side, and he's keeping good players out of that team. And the same for Wijnaldum, who I think he's taken a while to bed in at Liverpool. It was kind of the same at Newcastle a little bit when he was there. He took a little while to kind of get going, and then Liverpool brought him, and it kind of like faulted him a little bit, and he wasn't really getting that much game time. And he's benefited from players, especially like Henderson, being at the World Cup and not coming straight back into the team. And now he's there. Wijnaldum's taken his chance, and he's looked really good in the games. So it's funny that they spent this money on these players, but I think that the two players who've made the biggest difference this season so far are players that they have had for a few seasons now. Liverpool went 2-1 up in this. Sorry, 2-0 up in this. Spurs got kind of a late goal back, and they could have got another one. They were pushing for it, and it probably would have changed the outcome of this conversation, but they didn't, and Liverpool did deserve to win. As I said, if they could have been 4-0 at half time to Liverpool. Mane and Salah were very guilty of making bad judgment calls, I think, in terms of either making the wrong pass or being a bit selfish or whatever. And yeah, they were kind of tearing Tottenham's defence apart in the first half. But I don't know how much the stadium thing is going to be bothering Spurs as well. Like, for me, Spurs, they gotta just be happy to make it in the Champions League this season if they manage to do that, because anything else is surely just gonna be a bonus, right? Because they've just had the worst kind of, like, I don't want to say luck, because they kind of brought it on themselves a little bit, but it's not been a good couple of months, I don't think, for Spurs as a whole. Like, all they need now is an injury to like Ericsson or something like that, and they'll just top everything off. But as I said, they're still 6th, and apparently they're in crisis, so hey, I wish my team had a crisis like that. Bournemouth absolutely eviscerating Leicester. Very surprised at this. I thought this would be a much closer game. 4-2 flatters Leicester a lot, because Bournemouth went 4-0 up and were ripping them apart. The kind of front three of Bournemouth in Callum Wilson, Ryan Fraser and Josh King. it's kind of like a cut price. Firmino, Salah, Mane. They were outstanding. Ryan Fraser in particular was outstanding. They could have had more goals, Bournemouth. And they kind of went a bit slack at the end and let Leicester back in with a couple of late goals on there. Fraser got 2, Adam Smith got 1, King got 1, Fraser with another assist, Wilson with a really good assist as well, and then Albrighton, Maddison scored a penalty. They gave away a clumsy penalty, and then Albrighton got a goal. I don't think it was ever really that close, but Bournemouth just doing very well, and they're a team who are 5th now in the league, and they've had a great start to the season. I think they usually do, though, if I remember rightly, Bournemouth usually start well and fall off a little bit towards the end of the season. In the other video I made with the audio didn't work, I was talking about Eddie Howe and saying that it does puzzle me that we haven't had a bigger club come in for him. No offence to Bournemouth, but like a top 6 club, because I feel like with Bournemouth they play this attacking football, this aesthetically pleasing football. It's this nice passing style, and when you look at this Bournemouth team, you don't see superstars in there. You see players who Eddie Howe has brought in, at a cut price and improved and improved and improved, and they look like players who are comfortable in the Premier League now, very comfortable. Callum Wilson's a prime example. He was there when Bournemouth were in the Championship, came up with them. Had a horrific injury in his first season, and then he does look like a solid Premier League striker right now, and that's a testament to Eddie Howe, I think, and the work he's done at Bournemouth. I think Eddie Howe comes across very well in interviews and things like that, so I think he's got a good personality. I think there is just a massive bias against like young English managers, or English managers in general, from the top 6 in in the UK. Without a doubt. And Sam Allardyce used to kind of moan, and people used to laugh at him, and when he used to say, if my name was Sam Allardyce and I was Italian, I would have got a top 6 job by now. Do you know what? He's probably not wrong. It is fashionable, to go for a foreign coach who have these philosophies and these styles, and bring him in. And I kind of said last week about, would Neil Warnock have done a better job at Arsenal than Unai Emery so far? Would Eddie Howe have done a better job at Arsenal than Unai Emery? I 100% believe he would have. I know Unai Emery has got the experience of a big club. He was at Paris Saint-Germain, he was at Seville, he did there. I'm not disrespecting him in any way, he is a very good coach, but it does puzzle me sometimes that these English managers keep getting overlooked. You look at the jobs Sean Dyche did last season, and you look at a club like Everton, who want to push on in the league, and they're going for Marco Silva. This is a guy who had half a good season with Watford, half a good season with Hull, still got them relegated, and yet somebody who has proven, like for seasons with Burnley, to be doing a magnificent job, or in Bournemouth, Eddie Howe, season after season, overachieving, doesn't get a look in. It puzzles me, it really does. Obviously people can run their football club however they see. I'd be delighted if, one day Roy Hodgson decides to retire, because he is about 100 right now. And we got Eddie Howe, Sean Dyche. I'd be delighted. I think they're brilliant managers, and I think they do a fantastic job at a top 6 club. And I tell you what, people kind of go on and say oh yeah, but would they command the respect of the players in the way a Pep Guardiola or Jurgen Klopp does? And Jurgen Klopp was not a good player. He wasn't. His own admissions, he wasn't a good player. He didn't play for a big club. He built up his reputation as a manager, from starting at the bottom and building up and building up. And I see a lot of similarities with him and Eddie Howe in that respect. A good personality, very charismatic. Players obviously love working with him. Very loyal with those players, and building up. And I 100% believe Jurgen Klopp deserves to be Liverpool manager, absolutely. But I still believe that Eddie Howe deserves a chance at a big club, and I don't think it would be a risk. Look at Chelsea. Is it not a risk to bring in, to bring in Sarri? I mean, of course that's a massive risk. It's worked out quite well so far, but you're bringing in a guy who's like English is a little bit flawed, who's never, played, never managed an English club in the Premier League, never managed a game in the Premier League, and you're bringing him in based upon a couple of good seasons at Napoli. Don't get me wrong, I've got a lot of respect for the guy. My point is that any, if his name was Morris Salad and he, was from Scunthorpe, would he have got the same opportunity? Yeah, probably not. I guess the Premier League is all about the glitz and the glamour, and in some ways I wouldn't begrudge Eddie Howe to maybe go to a Bundesliga club or a Spanish club or an Italian club or something. I don't know if they'd take on an English manager, but I think it'd almost do him quite good to get some continental experience. But yeah, I think he's a very good manager, Eddie Howe. I really hope he gets a big job. I get a feeling like in order to get that big job, he'd have to win something with Bournemouth, whether that's a cup or do an even bigger feat like getting the Champions League or something to really get people's attention there. But we'll see. As for Leicester, they looked very pedestrian. They're really up and down, aren't they, Leicester, this season? Some games I've seen them play really well. They played well in those 2 wins. They played well against Man United and were unlucky not to get anything. And then the last 2 games, I mean, Liverpool, yeah, you kind of expect to lose that, I guess, but this one they look really bad. They got Huddersfield next. They're on 6 points. It's not the worst by a long way. I wouldn't say they're in crisis. I don't think Claude Puel should be fired or anything like that. I think they're going to really want to get something out of that Huddersfield game to just address, the couple of losses that they've got in a row, basically. Chelsea 4, Cardiff 1. I must admit, when Sol Bamba scored that goal, and I saw it pop up on my phone, I was like, oh god, it's going to be one of those weeks, isn't it? Where I'm like, so many times I'll back a team to win a game, be like, I'm sure this team's going to win this game, and they just do so badly. And I was like, this, I've made Hazard captain. It'd be typical if Cardiff win this 1-0, and Hazard misses like a whole host of chances or something. It would just be typical. But luckily, Eden Hazard is probably the form player in the Premier League right now, if not the best player in the Premier League right now. I think he's not quite there at that elite Cristiano Ronaldo, Messi level. I mean, he could be soon because those two are getting older, but he's getting closer. I'd say he's the closest to getting to that level than most other players out there. I think Neymar shot himself in the foot moving to Paris, to be completely honest. Otherwise, he probably would have stood a chance of getting in there. And you've got others coming through like Mbappe and Griezmann and players like that, but I think Hazard is right up there. He's a fantastic player. He scored wonderful goals. I mean, one of them was a penalty, to be fair, but his first goal was really good. Fantastic finish. He's a guy who's come back from the World Cup. A lot of people were saying, he's going to be tired or whatever. But yeah, it's come through. In there, I think he's rejuvenated because they say a change is as good as a rest. And going from the Conte defensive kind of, I remember when Conte just played him as a lone striker, pumping balls up to him, and then now to being this kind of like creative, like go-to player that they have in this attacking, swashbuckling kind of side is way more suited to him. So I think he's going to have a really good season. As for Chelsea as a whole, I'm still not 100% convinced in them. I think they've won 5 games out of 5. They've scored the most goals in the Premier League, well, joint with Man City. They've only conceded 4 goals, which is the 3rd fewest. Why am I not convinced by them? I just don't know. I feel like they have had an easy start. Okay, I know you can only beat the teams that are out in front of you, but if you compare them to, say, Newcastle start or something like that, they started off against Huddersfield. I mean, no offence to Huddersfield, but you would expect Chelsea to win that. They beat Arsenal. That's a good result. Yes, they beat a good team. Again, I don't think Arsenal are 100% convincing right now. They laboured a little bit to a win over Newcastle. I think Newcastle are better than a lot of people give them credit for on there. They beat Bournemouth. I have been praising Bournemouth, so maybe that's not such a bad result. And then they beat Cardiff, who you would 100% expect them to beat. They've got West Ham next, who again I would expect them to beat. So I think the proof will be in the pudding soon for Chelsea when they play some of the top 6 sides. We'll see how good they are then. When they play Liverpool, Man City, Tottenham, Man United, maybe. But who knows? Maybe this is going to be a 3-horse race instead of a 2-horse race, like everyone expects. I hope so. It's always better when there's more people involved. It would be typical of Chelsea to win the league because they always do this. Sack their manager, bring a new one in, he wins the league. Then he does badly next season. They sack him, bring a new one in. It's just the Chelsea way, isn't it? But I would be surprised if they, won the league. I would be very surprised. Still, you can't do much better than 5 wins out of 5. Next up, we have Huddersfield against Crystal Palace. Now, the difference between these two teams was one man, and that was Wilf Zaha. To give Andre Ayew the assist there is exceptionally generous, because I don't know if you saw this goal, but it was pretty darn good. It was the Zaha show, basically. He is, in my opinion, a player good enough to play for any team in the world. I genuinely believe that, not just because I'm a Crystal Palace fan, but I think people could say Mahrez could fit into any side in the world, and he went to Man City, and I believe Zaha is as good as that level. I think he's at that level. I'm not saying he's the best player in the world. I'm not saying he's in that same tier as Hazard or Griezmann or Mbappe or Neymar. I'm saying he's just below that, but that's still pretty darn good. He's way too good for Crystal Palace. I know that, and I'm just enjoying every moment I've got. With Zaha, Crystal Palace for me is like if I was going out with like a super rich, super attractive woman. I do go out with a super attractive woman. Actually, I'm going to stop that analogy there, or else I'll get in trouble. Imagine you had a really ugly guy, and he was going out with the hottest woman, one of the hottest women in the world, and you were like, "How's this guy going out with him?" And that guy would probably just be going, "You know what? I don't know how long this is going to last for, but I'm just going to enjoy every moment of this." And that's how I feel as a Palace fan. It's like, I don't know how long Wilf Zaha's going to be at our club. I don't know what's going to happen to our club once he leaves. We'll get a lot of money, yeah. We'll probably get relegated, yeah. But I'm just going to enjoy the moments that he is there, and that's all I can do. He's got 3 goals this season so far, I believe. Yeah, 3 goals. He was injured for 1, so that's 3 in 4 games. He's looking good this season. He's looking dangerous. I think a lot of the coverage of this game was taken up with his comments after the game. So, in case you don't know, he when he was interviewed by Match of the Day, I believe it was, they were saying that he said, I don't know what a player's got to do to get sent off against me. Maybe I've got to have my legs broken for that to happen. He was saying he's unhappy with the treatment that he's been getting. This kind of stems a lot from, I think, not this game in particular. Like, I think there was a bad challenge on him, but I think in particular the Watford game when Capoue raked his studs down his Achilles, and other games as well. Without doubt, Wilf is a target. Okay, everybody knows Palace are nowhere close to being as good without him. So what a team's going to do? They're going to go in hard on him. They're going to go tough on him. They're going to try and injure him. Like, of course they are. Like, I guarantee you that's what central defenders are thinking, and defensive midfielders. They're thinking, they're probably instructed by the managers, but I'm sure they're already thinking it. You need to go in tough on this guy. We need to double up on him, and we need to, send a message to him, basically. And I'm not comparing him to the same level as someone like Lionel Messi or something like that, but without doubt, he would get more protection if he was in a different league. One of the things people go on about in this country is, why don't we produce players like Paul Gascoigne anymore? A player technically gifted, brilliant, it could run with the ball, could strike a ball, he could do everything, Why don't we produce players like that anymore? One of the reasons is because we prize physical attributes over technical attributes. This guy's big, strong, he runs fast, he can run for ages. In other parts of the world, Spain, Italy, Germany to some extent, it's about the technical ability of the player rather than the stature or size, and so their players get more protection because it's a more technical game. You don't have big guys running into each other, and I know in England we do love that. Like, we love a good challenge, something like that, a good tackle. But the truth of the matter is that those types of players, they just get smashed about. They get injured, or they're seen as too weak to play, and so they don't come through the ranks, and we lose out on these players because of it. And unless we start providing protection to, players like that, and I'm not saying that Wilf Zaha no one should be able to foul him or no one should be able to touch him. Of course, that is going to happen. But it is something to look at, and I don't just mean for him. I mean, for lots of players as well, because we don't want to see our top players out injured because of tackles, and I feel like it happens more in the Premier League than any other league in the world. Players, bad challenges coming in, all the time. The other side of it, I will say, is that Wilf Zaha is a moaner. He admits it himself. He moans a lot about stuff. He says the reason why he does it is because he's passionate about it. He cares so much and he expects so much from himself that the frustration comes out of him when he doesn't do it. And you saw that in the Huddersfield game. He went and tackled. He did a bad tackle, bad late challenge on a player, got a yellow card, and that's his kind of frustration. And it's something he needs to work on. That kind of petulance or that ill discipline that he has to do. And it's great in a way because you see that passion in him, and you see that that desire and that frustration, because he wants all the time to play football. He wants to do the best, and he gets frustrated with the way he gets treated. But also he's got to learn to deal with that, when he's on the pitch, because other players will use it to wind him up, and we don't want him sent off. So yeah, I agree a lot with what he says. I don't want to see the Premier League become a non-contact sport. Of course not. No one wants to see that. But also I don't want to see our biggest stars just get roughed up week in, week out. I used to love Italian football, and Italian football used to be the defending in there just used to be sublime. Paolo Maldini, for those who don't remember, was one of the greatest defenders the world has ever seen. Certainly one of the greatest left backs. And he used to say, if I have to make a tackle, I've made a mistake, because it was all about stopping the ball before it got to that point. That's what it was about. And that famous Milan side he was in with that Baresi as well, just they were so good, and that art of defending, I think, is getting lost a little bit on defenders, and instead it's more about like, oh, we just send this big guy out and rough up the opposing attackers. It's not good for English football's image of and we look at our England team and we go, oh, why is there no one there who can dribble with the ball? Like, how can we as a nation have the best league in the world and we don't have one like winger type player? Raheem Sterling, you could argue, in there. Where do we have a player like Wilf Zaha, which many other nations have, a guy who can take it past another player? Probably Raheem Sterling is the only one in the England squad who can do that. And how many times was he bounced around? Because he was small. It happens, unfortunately. Anyway, I've spoken enough about Palace. Man City beat Fulham 3-0. I think, actually, even though this looks very comfortable, apparently Pep Guardiola was pretty annoyed with them and made them all report for training the next day when they were supposed to have a day off. I mean, that's scary. If your Man City's next opponent, which I guess was Lyon, who they were losing losing too, so maybe it's not that scary. But maybe like from a Premier League point of view. Yeah, Lyon are 2-0 up against Man City. Ooh, that's a big one. There's no Pep Guardiola at that game because he got banned. So Mikel Arteta's in charge. Not good start, is it? That's not good at all. And then we've got Man United 2-0 up. Juventus are 1-0 up against Valencia despite having Ronaldo sent off. Yikes. Drama, everyone. Last night I saw Liverpool beat PSG. That was a good game. I will say though, PSG are bad. They are bad. They have 3 of the best attackers out there, and nothing else. They are the Pamela Anderson of football teams. They're so top heavy that it's surprised they don't fall over all the time. You know, that's an analogy for all those 90s kids out there. Anyway, Man City. Yeah, I think Fulham are going to be fine. By the way, they're down there in 15th. I said about Fulham at the beginning of the season, I think they've got a really decent midfield and good up front. I just think they're really bad in defence, and yeah, that seems to be the case. Watford next is a tough game. 4 points from 5 games is going to be disappointing for them, but you know, they've played some tough teams. Man City, Tottenham, would you expect them to win that? Drew with Brighton, beat Burnley. Probably that Crystal Palace game is the one that's hurt them a lot because they were better than Palace in that game. Watford next, who were flying till they lost, but still gave a good account of themselves in that game. So that's a tough one. They're at home. They're going to really need to get something out of that game, I think. And Man City, okay, they had that draw with Wolves, which is disappointing for them, but otherwise they're comfortably getting through a lot of games. Cardiff next. I can't see anything other than Man City win, right? It would be ludicrous to expect anything else. Newcastle, Arsenal, cracking free kick from Xhaka. I give him a lot of stick because I don't think he's right for Arsenal. I don't think he's a bad player. I just don't think he's very good at Arsenal. But he can hit a ball. Good goal from Ozil as well. Late one back for Newcastle. I did see Emre did change his style a little bit here. Did sit back a little bit more, and Newcastle actually attacked a little bit more. I think Arsenal are a better team on paper than they are in reality. I know they lost 2 games which were very tough, Man City and then Chelsea, and then they've won the games people would expect them to, but I don't think they've been entirely convincing in those games. Like the Cardiff game I watched, and Cardiff could have had them. West Ham, it flattered them to be 3-1. I think if they played West Ham next week, it might be a different story. And I think Newcastle, while not a bad side, are a little bit down in the dumps because they've just had the worst run like ever, as in the worst fixture list opening you could ever imagine. It's Premier League probably. So yeah, we'll see with Arsenal. A top 4 finish for them would be the best I think they could hope for this season. Maybe even a League Cup win or an FA Cup win, and then build on that next season. I still don't believe Unai Emery is the right manager in there. I think they just went for the slick-looking guy who's a big name in Europe, personally, and I don't think that's going to work out for them. But we'll see. Could be wrong. I usually am. Man United, I said earlier, I thought they were turning a corner a little bit. It felt like this game, they were really playing for the manager, They did outplay Watford for most of the game. Fellaini looked really good in that defensive holding midfield role. Surprisingly good, actually. It was interesting on Match of the Day, Leon Osman said that Fellaini was brought in at Everton to play that role, but he didn't have enough discipline to do that. He was running into tackles and giving away silly free kicks, but he seems to have matured a lot, and I've always felt like Fellaini got like the rough end of the stick from a lot of people, mostly because of his hair. I think, honestly, I think that's why, and because technically he's not as gifted as a David Silva or a Kevin De Bruyne. But what he does is he's incredibly effective at doing, and like he played very, very well. Lukaku scoring the first Smalling, getting probably the best finish he's ever done in his life. And a late red card for Matic did nearly make it very interesting. I question how much more Matic is going to be in that Man United squad. I think they're going to want to maybe go for a Fellaini, Pogba, Fred match-up in that midfield. Pogba, going forward, Fellaini sitting in front of the back four, and then Fred being the kind of link-up guy in between. I think that would work. I don't know where Matic comes into that, to be honest. And then they'd have three up front, whoever that would be, Sanchez, Lukaku, and then one of like Lingard or Rashford or Martial or someone like that. I could see that going forward for Man United. I don't know. They're not playing their full strength side tonight against young boys for obvious reasons, I guess. But Pogba scored 2 goals, so there you go. Actually, they kind of are playing their full strength side in a way. They've got Pogba, Matic, and Fred in midfield. Fellaini's on the bench, maybe because they don't really need to have a holding midfielder against young boys, do they? So they got Rashford, Lukaku, Martial up front, Sanchez on the bench. Interesting. Sanchez has not been good at Man United, has he? I've never seen a player fade so much. Like, does anybody else get the feeling that if he went to Man City, he'd be flying right now? And at Man United was just a bad choice. He went for the money, and I don't know. Hey, I could be being harsh here. It could just have been injuries or whatever, or taking time to settle in. But like, he's not looked a 500 grand a week player, has he? As for Watford, I mean, they had a fantastic run of 4 games. They could make it 5 wins out of 6 easily against Fulham, and keep going. I don't think they're going to be up in the top 4 at the end of the season, but maybe they could do a Burnley scrape a 6th or 7th, which would be a fantastic season for them. So you never know. Wolves against Burnley. Wolves looked really good. I think they had like 30 shots or something like that in this game. Bad finishing, leading to them only scoring 1. Burnley weren't quite as terrible as they have been recently, and I think now they're out the Europa League, they will improve. I think they're going to have enough about them to survive this season, but I think it's going to be close. If I time travel in the future and Burnley got relegated this season, I wouldn't exactly be like, what? I'd be like, yeah. They've got 1 point from 5 games. That was that opening day draw. They've only scored 3 goals. They conceded 10, which is so un-Burnley-like, isn't it, really? They've had some bad losses. Bournemouth next is going to be a real tough one for them, but they need to get something out of that game. They have to, Sean Dyche said about it was like a fog descending upon the team, and they need some of them defoggers that you have in Fallout 4, Far Harbour. That's a random reference there, but there you go. They need some of that big time. Wolves look very, very good. Whatever you think of Wolves and the way they've done their business or whatever, they look like a Premiership side. They really do. They play good football. They've got very good players. They're going to give Man United a real run for their money in this game. And I could see them again getting around this kind of 7th, 6th to 10th area at the end of the season. I think they're going to do well this season. And who knows where they're going to go from there. Onwards and upwards, maybe. Who knows? Everton, West Ham. West Ham finally, after 4 losses, looking crap in a lot of them, looked really good against Everton. Well, at least the attack did. I did say, I think in my preview, that on their day, that Anderson, Arnautovic, Yarmolenko link up, it could be incredible, and it was incredible. Arnautovic, I think, has been the most consistent out of them. He's looked really, really good since going to West Ham. Moyes was probably the one who kick-started that. and then he's kind of continued that under Pellegrini. Declan Rice in front of the back four. I know there's been a lot of controversy around him and whether or not he's going to play for Ireland or England. I don't really have an opinion on it. He can do what he wants at the end of the day, but I do think the rule of being able to play in a friendly for the senior team, not counting as kind of like a cap tie, for that nation, is dumb as hell. I really do. But there you go. Yeah, anyway, Yarmolenko with two really, really good goals. A poor mistake from, I don't think Pickford had a good game at all, basically. He was very culpable for one of the goals Yarmolenko scored. And yeah, just Everton, they've been such an up and down team. They always are, aren't they? 1-1, drawn 3, lost 1. Games they should have won, really. Those draws. Got Arsenal next. I think that would be an interesting gauge for both those teams. I think that's, Arsenal have won the games they're expected to win in these 3 and probably lost the 2 they're expected, but this is a game which I couldn't tell you which way it's going to go. So like a good Arsenal win here and you might say, yeah, they're back on track, but then Everton, are capable of beating Arsenal on their day. I think they're going to have, what's his name back again? Oh God. I keep thinking Richarlison. I think they're going to have Richarlison back from suspension for that one, so that could make a difference to them. They did miss a couple of chances. It could have been a bit closer, but I think Everton in the end, West Ham in the end deserved to win that game a lot. And as I said, I think Arnautovic looked really good. Yarmolenko obviously looked really good. Just don't show him onto his left foot for God's sake. And Anderson was much improved. Felipe Anderson was much improved as well. Not quite his best, but improved. Brighton Southampton I didn't see. Looked like it was a good game. I saw the goal from Højbjerg and it was absolute, just worldy. The guy is never going to hit a football that well again in his life. I wish I had just once in my life hit a football that well because it must feel so good. If you didn't see it, look up his goal. Højbjerg for Southampton. It was something special. Ings scored. I said that's 3 goals in 5 games for him. But he barely played in the first one. I said I think he's going to do well at Southampton. I had Southampton to go down, but I said when they signed Ings, I was like, that could be a difference for them. That could be the striker they need. I think it will be. I think they're going to stay up now. He can't play against Liverpool, so I'll have to sub him probably. But I think I'm going to keep him in my squad. Probably just put Zaha in instead. Palace got Newcastle, so I fancy us for that if Zaha's fit. But yeah, looked like a good game. I don't really have much of an opinion on Brighton or Southampton yet. I think they've been bang average so far. Probably Southampton have exceeded my expectations a bit in the fact that they're not in the bottom 6. But otherwise, I don't know. I wonder if we're going to see a relegation battle as wide open as last season. I think it depends on these 4 teams down the bottom here. None of them have a win yet. And I wonder if these guys are going to get cut adrift a little bit, these 4. If Burnley don't pick up. The one team I would say have a chance is Newcastle. Like, they've had to play Tottenham, don't count Cardiff, Chelsea, Man City, Arsenal. Like that, 4 of your 5 games you would probably be expected to lose. So maybe 1 point's not the worst. They should have been Cardiff though. They really should have been Cardiff. They beat Cardiff that day. They had a penalty late on that saved. I think it was injury time. They should have won that game. I fancy Palace's chances against them. We're at home, and that's the sort of game they need to get something out of. To get out of that relegation zone. I can't see Cardiff getting anything against Man City. Huddersfield Leicester could be a very interesting one. Again, Huddersfield need to get something out of that, and Burnley have to get something out of the Bournemouth game as well. But I do wonder whether or not we're going to see some teams actually get cut adrift a little bit, rather than everything going down to the last few weeks of the season again. Because I feel like Brighton, Fulham, West Ham, Southampton, Palace. I feel like all those teams are much better than that bottom four. So, we'll see. We'll see. Out of that bottom four, I would expect Huddersfield and Cardiff to get relegated currently on what I see. But we'll see, won't we? So yeah, next up, Fulham Watford. That should be quite a good game actually. Burnley Bournemouth again, big game for Burnley. That one, I can't see anything other than Man City winning that. It's a sort of game Palace should be winning, but we probably won't. Huddersfield Leicester again. It's quite a big game for both those teams. They're both on bad runs. Leicester have lost 2. Huddersfield have lost 3 of their last 5 and 2 draws. I'd fancy Leicester for that though, to be completely honest. Liverpool I definitely fancy against Southampton, especially now Southampton can't play Ings because it's his parent club. He's only on loan at Southampton. Man United Wolves, that's got a draw for me. I could definitely see a draw there, or even an away win possibly, but we'll see. Man United have looked better, I will say that much. Spurs Brighton is the sort of game that you would expect Spurs to win, but they haven't been in great form recently. They really haven't, so I don't know what's gonna happen from there. West Ham Chelsea, it could be very interesting because Chelsea you'd expect to win that. They're top of the league, flying away, but West Ham looked decent in that game. I don't think they're good enough yet to beat Chelsea. I still would think Chelsea are firm favourites for that game, but there could be a surprise there. I'm still going to go for Chelsea to win that one. And then Arsenal Everton I think is a really fascinating game, seeing how far both those teams have come. Both have looked patchy in games this season, not really at their best, so it will be interesting to see where that goes. Arsenal at home, so I would fancy them to win it, but we'll see I think from there. Yeah, anyway, that's the second time I've talked about all of that. You're not getting a third time, I'll tell you that much.